The house in Moscow was once a single crime scene that seemed a Herculean task to process. It has now evolved to forensic investigations in 2 additional states, the processing of a car, and so much more happening behind the scenes. We asked NewsNation's Robert Sherman to look into all of the components of forensics and the judicial process that have to go right to actually win a conviction. It's such an important part of all of this. And Robert joins us now from the crime scene in Moscow tonight. Robert.
Good evening to you, Brian. And the goal for law enforcement at this point can be summed up in 2 words: investigation, perfection.
The 4 were stabbed with a knife, but no weapon has been located at this time.
From forensics in Idaho to pre-dawn capture in Pennsylvania.
It was on the door.
Force was used for evening search warrants.
Police, prosecutors, and the courts working hard to bring their A game.
And you don't want the slightest thing to happen.
Retired FBI agent Kathy Geider isn't surprised to see top-notch investigative techniques like 3D imaging used in the processing of the King Road murder scene. And crime techs spending more than 12 hours at Brian Kohberger's Pullman, Washington apartment, carting off a computer tower and more, also a routine part of a well-executed law enforcement script.
Every location that comes up, now you have more evidence teams out there, whether it's digital evidence, communication being part of that, whether it's fingerprints, shoe prints, all the different technologies out there. Very, very time consuming.
The investigation, evidence processing, even search warrants and Miranda rights must be perfect or the defense can pounce.
The one thing that I'm not seeing in this arrest affidavit is a motive for this crime. Did Mr. Kohberger know these victims? If not, the defense is really going to be drilling in on that.
Federal criminal defense attorney Tama Cudman looked over the gag order now covering the case. It's an extensive one, she says, and necessary for both the defense and the prosecution.
To the extent that any information is being leaked into the jury, they may be tainted. And if you want to have a fair trial, we have to protect them from these kinds of leaks.
What might seem like missteps, like the beginning of hazardous material cleaning of the house that abruptly stopped.
But the sheeting has come down.
We'll get scrutiny for potentially damaging Kohberger's due process.
Could be for the defense counsel, could be that they just want to hold it for a little bit.
We call that spoliation of the evidence in criminal defense lingo, and that is going to most certainly be an issue.
A new crime scene expert spent most of Tuesday in and out of the home. Hired by the defense, this forensic specialist is carrying 3D imaging technology, also used by detectives. He also specializes in crime scene reconstructions and blood pattern analysis, his career splitting nearly equal time testifying for and against criminal suspects.
Reporting.
How y'all doing today?
The 2 Indiana traffic stops of suspect Kohberger and his dad are of little surprise to retired Agent Geider.
You've got the people that are gonna, look just at the linguistics of what did he say, why did he say it at that particular time. You are combing every part of that vehicle, seats, under the seats, the floor mats, every little piece is being evaluated for the potential evidence.
A former member of an FBI mobile surveillance team, she notes the deputies talkative verification of who's behind the wheel, but it's the car and what it might hold that is just as intriguing.
I would caution everyone, most certainly we have enough information and evidence for probable cause to arrest, but that does not mean that we have enough evidence for proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Everything has to be meticulous from this point on.
A swirl of DNA evidence, digital data, and investigative procedure that must be spot on so that justice can be served for 4 young lives.
This whole community and nation was desperate for speedy answers, and at times it seemed as though this case might never be solved. But we now know less than 2 weeks after those murders took place, Moscow police was asking other law enforcement agencies to be on the lookout for that white Hyundai Elantra. A cautious investigation yielding this arrest, Brian.
Thank you, Robert. We are staying centered on the victims and their families as we continue with this special live from Moscow, Idaho.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.